Sound check. Check 1, check 2.
So I titled today's program RIP, Rest in Peace, Modern Singing Methods, ? And this has been something that I've been sort of mulling over for quite some time. You know, in some respects, ever since I've been doing the online space, and it's partly driven, there's a whole range of things going on here for me, and I want to be really clear up front in my discussion. And that is, everything I'm about to say is personal opinion. It is by no means delivered as being infallible. It's opinion, therefore it's open to change, it's open to growth, it's open to being refined. Nothing that I'm about to say, if I do say something controversial, nothing I'm about to say should be taken as gospel, because, well, I really don't think anyone can hold to a gospel around this subject, because we're really talking about, I want to just briefly talk about some history around contemporary vocal pedagogy, and talk about where we've kind of arrived at today, and maybe give you some insights into, you know, the machinations of what happens behind the scenes internationally around vocal pedagogy, which again, by no stretch do I have, you know, an insight into everything that goes on. And some of the people I'm going to be talking about, some of them I've met, some of them I haven't, some of them I've been able to query about their methods and the way they teach, and others I haven't. So it's really important as we get into this that you contextualize and frame this purely as a developing view, a developing opinion, and that's probably the best way to say it. So I put up this question. I'll see if I can bring it up for us over here, and I'm just keeping an eye on that live stream, everyone, to make sure that it's okay. Let me bring this up, this page here. So I put this question up for us last week. And for those of you who don't know, occasionally I do put questionnaires and some things up here on the community tab. This is the YouTube channel, and of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that. And the only way you can be notified about these live hangouts is if you hit the thumbs up, the subscribe button, and then the white bell icon as well, to make sure YouTube lets you know about these hangouts. Oh, and by the way, hey, I want to let you guys know at the end of the show today, I'm going to let you know about some exciting things I'm doing after Easter with the live hangout. I'll keep you in suspense. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. So here we've got this this question that I asked at the beginning. I'll just make sure I've got it up there. And I asked this question: which modern singing methods have you found the most beneficial for your vocal development? Now, the question is I tried to ask the question in a positive way. I certainly didn't want to ask the question in a derogatory or a negative way. But the question, I guess, in many respects, is unintentionally loaded to draw out, you know, a response. And we've got some really great responses. Now, I've listed 4 here. Now, I put Ken Tamplin in the mix because Ken has such a look, he's probably one of the largest, if not currently the most active and largest learn to sing channel on YouTube. Many of you have heard of him. I've never had any interactions with him, and one day I might. I don't know, but I certainly don't know the gentleman. He puts up, you know, this is how you sing this song sort of videos and what have you. So the reason I put him up there is not because I don't know that we would classify Ken as a methodologist. Certainly he employs his own instructional technique, and he has technical exercise CDs and DVDs and learn to sing videos here on YouTube. But I don't know that we'd classify Ken as a methodologist any more than we would classify me. And just to put it up very clearly, I am not a methodologist. I don't seek to be labelled as one. I would never want you to describe me as one. I don't consider, I've said this many times, I'm not a guru. I don't consider myself to be, I don't want to be that. And we'll get into why not in a moment. We'll go back over to here. So what we've got here as well is we've got the somatic voice works by the Levitri method. And so that's something by Jeannie Levitri, from memory, a New York-based singing teacher. I could be wrong but she's certainly US. I have spoken to Jeannie a couple of times, not at length. The Estelle voice training method, which was developed by Joe Estelle, really back in the 80s, into the 90s, and sadly passed away a number of years ago, Joe Estelle. But she still has a very large following, if you like, of people who have taken on board her, her methodology, and a big part of her contribution was in developing language that connected speech therapists with singing teachers, and developing some coherence in the terminologies, etc. That was a really positive contribution. Then we have, I listed Seth Riggs. Seth Riggs, many of you would know of his name. And Seth Riggs developed what we refer to as the speech level singing method. And ones like Brett Manning, he's probably the most prominent one on certainly on YouTube. There's a number of people on YouTube who really are born out of that SLS, speech level singing methodology. And I'm not saying that they teach SLS per se, because you've got to be certified to do that, and there have been court cases, etc., on people not. Anyway, long story short, certain people's methodology and teaching technique is based in that. It comes out of that, and they've gone on to do their own things with it. Then we come down here. I just wanted to talk about some of the responses. So certainly up here you can see, out of 167 votes, Ken Tamplin received 38% of the vote. Now, I am not surprised by that, because Ken on YouTube has a really wide following. Like, he's massive channel. I think he's up around 400, 500,000 subscribers. Big channel. So his presence on YouTube is quite large. And what is of interest to me is this one here, just how low Jeannie Levitri's method is known by singing students, because certainly at the moment Jeannie Levitri's method is being, a lot of people are gravitating, a lot of singing teachers, certainly here in Australia, a lot of singing teachers are gravitating to that as an opportunity to develop their craft, and then even this Estelle one is quite low. We come down here, and this is where some of the comments are. I just want to really clarify some of our commentary around this. So notice here we've got Felicia Ricci, I'm sorry, Fel, if I'm saying your name. She's known on YouTube as Fel. Now, she's actually just completely redirected her channel. She's no longer really doing the learn to sing thing. She's really exploring her own creativity, and more power to her for that. But Fel, once again, she also has quite a large channel. And Eric Arsenault, who has quite a large channel. These are people with big channels. These people are not methodologists, in my humble opinion. Ones like Estelle, Levitri, Riggs, these are people who we would classify, I think, as methodologists. They are people who have developed a new mode of approach to instructing voice. They have created a whole new framework, if you like. Many of these singing teachers, and I would classify myself amongst this, many of these teachers, Fel, Eric, Ken, everyone keeps talking about Jacob's Vocal Academy. I've actually done a video recently for Jacob's Vocal Academy. He's by no means a methodologist. I've never heard of Bohemian Vocal Studio, which I'll have to go and check out at one stage. You can see here Tanya Levy, who's got an up-and-coming... Now, this is interesting. This one here, this one that Tanya mentions, so she mentions, first of all, Estelle. She's been impacted by Estelle. Then she talks about CVT. CVT is a program called Complete Vocal Training, I think, or Complete Vocal Technique. And it was developed by a methodologist called Catherine Sutherland. And she's got a really, a lot of people, she's highly respected by a lot of pedagogues. Some people, now here's the thing, when it comes to every pedagogue, every methodologist you can name, they are polarized people. You will find people who absolutely love them, and then you'll find people that are not so enamored with them, and and so you very rarely have people that will sit on the fence when it comes to methodologists. But what methodologists do is they're a bit like icebreakers at times. They kind of pave new ways. They break new ground, and that's certainly Catherine Sutherland would, in my opinion, fall into that. Another methodologist in the contemporary world would be perhaps Melissa Cross when it comes to Zen of Screaming. She would be regarded, I think, by many pedagogues, many singing teachers, as a methodologist. So we come down here, Verba Vocal. Certainly I wouldn't have thought that she's a methodologist. Tristan certainly isn't. And so McCloskey Vocal Technique, I've never heard of that, so I can't comment. But Benjamin, obviously, I went and checked out his channel because he's got quite a few subs and he's doing some lovely vocal work on that. Roger Burnley, most certainly. Roger Burnley is, and Singing Success. Certainly Roger is more SLS, speech level singing. It can be really beneficial, I think, to understand where a singing technique is coming from. What is the underlying foundation, technically, of that teaching? And it can give you some good insights into what you can expect, Daniel, expect to gain, what you can expect to gain from that teacher, and also what you can expect not to gain. And I guess that probably brings us to the next little point that I want to make. And so there's a whole heap of people that made some... Hey, thanks everyone once again for making... there's Carl's mentioned there. So yeah, thanks everyone for jumping on and commenting there and being so proactive in giving us some views. This is where we start to talk about, what is a methodologist? Well, I think we kind of just answered that. And what is purely a singing teacher who's come along and is taking those values from that methodologist and employing them into... I'm just going to change us back across, everyone, to this. What are the things that we are going to gain from that teacher, and what have they garnered? So, straight up front, full disclaimer. My influence, my singing teacher, I've had a number of really good singing teachers over the years. I had a lady who actually heads up the classical department of the Queensland Conservatorium of Music. Her name is Margaret Schindler, and she gave me only 1 year I had with her, but she had such a big impact on my voice. And that was back when I was doing classical. Then I spent a good period of time with a lady that is highly regarded here in Australia called Irene Bartlett. Now Irene, she's highly regarded, but again, I wouldn't refer to Irene as a methodologist. What Irene does, and in many respects this is what I do, she garners the best from other people and then develops her own strategies for voice care and vocal instruction. And certainly when I was with her in the late 90s, early 2000s, Seth Riggs, played a part in my development because that's who Irene was instructing from. Neil Semmer is a name that many of you maybe I'm familiar with, but is a highly regarded music theatre pedagogue who, again, I think comes out of New York. Estelle played a part, so I do use words like twang and in fact, that's probably the only lasting word that I have from Estelle, but certainly Estelle enabled me to develop really good relationships with speech therapists and ENTs, which is fabulous. And then what I've gone on to do is develop even further in taking and feeding in other troughs, if you like. Let me show you, this is probably the first book. I've actually got a whole range of books here. Now, I wanted to show you just the development of pedagogy, kind of in one way or another. So this is a book called Structure of Singing. This is by Richard Miller. In fact, actually, I shouldn't go to that one first. I should go to this one. This is probably one of the first books I ever bought for voice. This is called Singing for the Stars. It's this Seth Riggs Complete Program for Training Your Voice. And so this came with a couple of CDs, and Irene instructed me to buy this, and so we started to look at that. So there you go. There's my evidence that Seth Riggs has had an influence on my voice. He certainly, his training program certainly has. But can I show you how thick that is? That's how thick that is. Now, my next book, when I started to look at voice pedagogy, I actually started with this book. This is by Richard Miller, called The Structure of Singing. Ladies and gentlemen, this used to be the Bible of voice pedagogy. Probably through the late 80s into the early 90s, probably into the mid-90s, this was the book. If you were teaching voice, if you wanted to, this was the book you went to. And look, there's still some really good stuff in here. But have a look at how thick it is. Have a look at how thick that is. Okay, so even there you can see some development. This was produced back in the mid-70s, late 70s, early 80s. This is produced, I forget exactly when it was first published, but it's way back in 1996. I don't know that that's the first. Anyway, so there you go. Then comes along this collection. This is called Body, Mind and Voice. And you can see it's actually got 3 volumes. You can see how much pedagogy. Now this is released in the year 2000, okay? And you can see how much more, firstly the size of it, oh, where am I? I'm coming over here. I'll come over this side. So you can see the size of it, you can see the thickness of it is increasing. Our knowledge about voice is starting to, by the year 2000, we've got a lot of researchers starting to really do some exceptional work in the area of voice. Let me just bring this up here. I'm just double checking that we've got everything's going good. Now, so do you know what? Even up until probably 2010, I would be referencing these books quite a bit. By the way, this is these are only the smallest collection of my library when it comes to vocal pedagogy books. I'm a bit of a bibliophobe. I do like collecting books about vocal pedagogy. So this series here during the 2000s became my Bible, and I still reference it on a regular basis. But at the beginning of this year, I bought, oh, it's so heavy. I bought this series. Now, this series is called Professional Voice, The Science and Art of Clinical Care. It's the 4th edition. It's so heavy. It's by Professor Sataloff. Now, Professor Sataloff is regarded as one of the world's leading voice scientists and otolaryngologists, voice researchers. Now, again, I've got to pick this up because it's super heavy. Now, that, oh, how am I going to do this? That compared with that, can you see the difference in the size? Yeah? So, now this was released last year, mid last year. It costs a fortune. that is probably the preeminent available text right now when it comes to voice pedagogy. I guess the point I'm making is that we started, can I show you, back in the 70s. Oh, let me bring it up. Oh. We started with that thickness, this one here, the Singing for the Stars, and now we are up to, look at the size of the professional voice stuff. Oh, wow. I've never been so exhausted during a live hangout in my life. Okay, so, I'll just sit that there for a second. Now, this stuff, I am actually exhausted after doing that, because it's so heavy. What I guess I'm getting at is the progression of voice research has been exponential in even just the space of 40 years. One of the challenges faced by methodologists is their method becomes, I guess, etched in concrete. It becomes fixed in time. Not all methodologists find themselves cemented and rooted into that moment in time, but some of them unfortunately do. What we as people who are learning to sing need to be really super careful of is that we don't become cemented in time. This is a very difficult thing. So that be very careful of whether it be online, and this is a statement I haven't made yet, but I want to make it really clear. It's a statement I have said before many times on the channel, and that is, do you know what? Most of the best pedagogues in the world, it must be said, are not on YouTube. And look, to be honest with you, there's actually a bit of a stigma that goes with those singing teachers who, for whatever reason, are wise enough or silly enough to find themselves having a YouTube channel. And so that's just a side note, and Karen could attest to the fact that there is a little bit of a thing. You know, if you're on YouTube, you must be, you know, selling snake oil. Well, hopefully that's not what we're doing here. I know Karen doesn't do that on her channel, and there are a number of really excellent channels that are seeking to provide you with fact-based pedagogy. Now, unfortunately, the facts continue to shift a little because we are continually learning, and that, I cannot tell you how heavy this is. I should have weighed it before I got it off the shelf because, man, okay. And you'll start seeing, in fact, in the last couple of months, I have been referencing, in our videos, I've been referencing from this text, not always, but some of the time, because I want to give you guys the latest and the greatest information available when it comes to learning to sing. And so be very careful. Some old ideas die very hard, you know, whether it comes to terminology, whether it comes to understandings of voice. And so, for example, an area that I've said to you guys many times before that I don't really fully understand yet, and I'm hoping to get Ken Bozeman on later in the year. One area that I don't understand a lot of is vocal resonance in the way that it's now being used around the mechanics of passaggio, etc. Because when I started teaching back in the well, I started teaching in the late 90s, but when I started learning voice, this was what we were learning from. It was, you know, that thick. Now, our pedagogy books, mind you, there are other books, like I've got a Vernard book up there, which is 1970s, and it's much more detailed than this. A Sundberg book, which is probably around the same era. So this was not certainly the preeminent text of that era, but nonetheless, you get my point. The Vernard and the Sundberg book are not much thicker than this. I guess what I'm getting at is, please be very careful online when it comes to hitching your ride to a particular method or a particular online guru. Try to make sure you ascertain that they are themselves upgrading on a constant basis their knowledge around voice, because this is a fast-moving train, and if any one of us as singing teachers just sits back and rests on our laurels, we will be left behind. No mistake, because we are just learning so much about the voice at such a rapid rate that it is really important that that we as pedagogues keep up, and part of that is spending the $1,000+ and that's what it cost me to import these from the States. That's what we need to be doing to keep up with the latest and the greatest information. And you know what? In 5-10 years' time, I bet I'm buying an updated version, and you know what? It's probably going to be thicker again. There'll be more information, there'll be better understanding. Some of this stuff that's included in this book now will be revised, it will be updated, and we'll have to upgrade our knowledge again. Does that mean then, I hope you guys are sticking, I hope you're enjoying this, I hope you're getting something out of this today. Give us a thumbs up in the discussion, on the video if you're enjoying today's discussion. Does that mean then that you can't really trust anything that anyone's saying? No, you can trust channels, certainly like mine and like Karen's and like a range of other people's who are actively engaged in obtaining, to the best of their ability, upgraded knowledge, upgraded understandings to know what's going on. Now, another way, and this is where we turn, remember I said I had some news to give you guys at the beginning of the video. This is where I want to just let you all know, after Easter, now we've got one more live hangout next Monday, but the Monday after that is, certainly here in Australia, is a public holiday. It's Easter Monday, and so I won't be doing a live hangout. Not next week, I'll be here next week, but the week after, so we'll be taking a 2-week break. Then when we come back, I'm excited to let all of you know that I've lined up a range of internationally respected pedagogues who are going to join us live. Hopefully we'll be able to do some Q&A at the end of every end of every live hangout that we do with them. But I'm going to ask them to talk about their passion and their drive, not only around why they teach singing, but what is their current area of interest and study? What is their current understanding about very specific topics? You know, I love doing these live hangouts with you guys, and I know you enjoy them as well because you come back every week. But equally, I want to start introducing some other voices. You know, one of my favorite hangouts during the term was when Karen and I, and many of you know Karen from SingWise, when Karen and I did our live hangout, I got the tech wrong, and there's a echo on that video, which is, I was so disappointed that that was the case, because it was such a good thing. It was such a good discussion and healthy, robust discussion for you guys. I want to do more of that, and I'm going to be doing that throughout, certainly the next term, and hopefully into the future, because without, you know, looking to pat myself on the back for any reason, but I do have good contact with a lot of really high-level leading pedagogues internationally, and I want to bring some of them onto the channel so you can meet them, you can hear them talk, and you can hear them direct you towards really cutting-edge understanding of your voice and your vocal development. And you know what? I'm excited about it because I know I'm going to learn heaps myself just from sitting and listening to the wisdom and the expertise of these men and women when they come on the next show. So there you go. Really good discussion. Oh, I've just seen Karen's. Let's just quickly. Gee, I've rambled a lot today. I hope everyone's cool with that. Let me just bring this over because I've just seen Karen's thought here. We're thought of as peddlers of vocal information. Yeah. Anyone? That's people who are on YouTube. You know, doing the learn to sing thing. Anyone can be on YouTube, whether qualified or not, so the information that we peddle is often assumed to be bad. And that's the difficulty, is there is a lot of snake oil, and in some respects, I guess, you ones like Karen and myself have jumped in and said, well, if you can't beat them, let's join them. Let's get some good information up online. It doesn't mean we're infallible. It doesn't mean we get it right 100% of the time, but certainly we are aiming to really provide you guys with good, solid, researched, fact-based learning. And certainly that's what I aim to do here on the channel as much as I possibly can. Oh, that was a maybe I needed to get that off my chest. Let's come back up here and see if we've got any questions. I'm only going to answer a couple today because well, I've got a student coming in a moment, so I've got to be able to get there. Coming back down here, Raymond is saying, I have a tessiture of A sharp 2 to B4. This question here, everyone. With a light timbre, what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything particular. I would have thought that would suggest baritone. Raymond, I think I've responded to you on one of the videos, and we talked about your voice classification. So, look again, don't get so hung up on voice classification. You know, it's a box, it's an important box for classical singers because they are driven by their fach a lot, according to repertoire. In contemporary voice, it's just, I don't know, I just don't see it as such a big issue. It's, you know, I am going to do a video, like a pre-record video again on voice classification and answer many of your questions later in the year because everyone keeps asking about it. But even then, I think I'll be driven to say, but it's not that big a deal. It has its place, but don't feel like you've got to place a label on your forehead and then, you know, live up to that label. You are unique, wonderfully unique, and you know, celebrate that uniqueness. And I'm going to come down, Sweet Peach. I'm going to give the last question today to Sweet Peach. I really need some help with resonance and false vocal cords. I hear my false cords very clearly when I'm singing. I try to use vocal closure, but that really messes with my... if you're getting false fold constriction, maybe try some straw work. In fact, we did you can jump across the channel, go looking for another live hangout, just like this one, where we, in fact, I think it's on the channel. In fact, I think... where maybe I can show you, if we come across to the channel, and I think if we come down all the way down to the bottom, there it is, just on the channel, and singing with straws. So you might like to have a look at that video, and that will help you with releasing some of that false fold constriction. You might want to also look for the video where I talk about muscle tension dysphonia. The video doesn't directly address MTD, muscle tension dysphonia, but it does help with a false fold retraction and constriction retraction. So go looking for muscle tension dysphonia on the channel, and I think you'll find that helpful. Well, there you go. Can I just close off by saying I hope in no way, shape or form have I insulted anyone today. That certainly would not have been my view. If there are people that I've said are not methodologists and they themselves like to claim that they are, again, I'm not looking to gainsay that. I'm just providing you my opinion and my view. And again, that's open to being incorrect and happy to be corrected if need be. But I think the people I've talked about, the Estelles, the Levitris, the Riggs, the Millers, Zen of Screaming. Oh, my brain's gone blank. These are methodologists. They're cutting edge. They're breaking new ground. Most other singing teachers, me included, we are taking advantage of that new ground that has been broken, and we are developing our pathways of learning out of those learnings that they have, you know, so kindly distributed to others. There you go. I hope you've enjoyed today's discussion, and we've got one new live show again next week. Of course, we've got another 2 new videos this week on Wednesdays and Fridays, as always. Hey, if you've enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to Voice Essentials, please subscribe. You would be joining the most encouraging community of singers from across the globe who, just like you, want to raise their voice in song, and we all want to do it to the very best of our ability. And this community, this Voice Essentials community, will really support you in that. And make sure you always read the comments section underneath the videos, because I learn so much from you guys, and I know you'll learn so much from each other as well. So make sure you do that under every video. Again, thanks for tuning in. I very much look forward to our next Hangout, and look forward to seeing you again. I'll catch you in the next Voice Essentials video. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.